Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Body Shop Management Tip of the Week. Guys, I am stoked to be here with you this morning. We've got another really good episode for you that I think you'll like. It's called Bust That Bottleneck, right? And if you're new to this, Body Shop Management Tip of the Week is where I come to you each week. I come to you live with another practical tip that you can apply immediately to help you improve your collision repair business. Again, I'm your host. I'm the founder of Elite Body Shop Solutions. My name is Dave Luehr, and I'm happy to be here with you. Hey, if you want to check out some of the other management tips, don't forget, you can go visit our YouTube channel. It's just Dave Luehr on YouTube, and you can go check that out for free. And there are a bunch of different episodes in there that can help you on various different management topics. But today's topic is called Busting Bottlenecks because it sounds good, right? Truthfully, it should probably be called Elevate Your Constraint and Make Tons More Money. So back in the 1990s, I was operating a very small shop. It was only a few thousand square feet with one non-baking paint booth in the back of the shop. So it felt like my team and I spent more time, moving cars around to get one out of the way to put another car over here than we actually did repairing them. So one day, a mentor of mine who happened to work in the manufacturing industry, he handed me a book, and it was called The Goal by Ellie Goldratt. And this book forever changed my life. It taught me about the theory of constraints. Have you ever heard of it? Some people call it TOC. And I was able to turn my small shop into a money-making machine by focusing my efforts on the system's constraint. In my case, the primary constraint was that paint booth. So in the years since I had my first shop, I was able to use TOC to improve the throughput and the profits of many, many shops, regardless of the shape, the size, the layout, whatever. That's no longer a good excuse. In most cases, I could improve these shops like close to 50% in a fairly short amount of time. Now, I could spend a couple days teaching you about theory constraints, but I've only got a couple minutes here to get you started on your journey learning about TOC. So I hope you'll pay attention. So first of all, I got to credit one of my friends, John Parker from over in the UK, who taught me also a lot about TOC, and he shared this hourglass principle with me. So the top portion of the hourglass here, this would represent your work in process. So those are all the cars sitting around and in your shop. And the amount of sand or the repair jobs, right, is determined how quickly it can go down here and become money in the bank. So the bottom portion of the hourglass is when you get to invoice the repair job and put that money in the bank. So this whole process of taking work in process and turning it into cash is what we call in TOC throughput. So as you can see on the hourglass, there's a little tiny pinch point here in the middle. This is what we call the primary constraint, okay? It's this pinch point that determines your throughput or how much money you can make. So in other words, it doesn't matter how much whip you have up here, right, in the upper part, as long as you've got just enough to feed this pinch point so it never runs out, right? Because this is what determines your ability to make money. Hope that makes sense so far. So you've probably heard the term, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So it's a little bit like that with bottlenecks in your system. You can only make as much money as your primary constraint will allow. You see how that works? So in TOC, what we are essentially trying to achieve is this. So here's the old model, which would be a traditional body shop with a lot of whip and only a tiny bit of throughput. What we're really trying to do is shorten the overall cycle and widen the pinch point a little bit, right? So when you do that, it flows through much quicker. So you're essentially putting WIP into cash or throughput at a much faster pace. And I want to thank John Parker again for sharing this visual, because I think it's a great way to explain kind of the basics of TOC. So back at Luehr's Auto Body circa 1993 or whenever it was, we used what's called the 5 steps to bust a bottleneck. And I'm going to share these with you right now. So the first one is called identify the bottleneck. This is the first thing you got to do. And it's actually easy to find for most people, as it's usually the resource or the department in your shop with the most inventory or cars that are parked in front of it. So think about that. So nowadays, a lot of shops find that their admin processes are actually the primary constraint, such as cars getting backed up in blueprinting or waiting on insurance approvals. And then the challenge for a lot of shops is that the constraint always seems to be moving around, doesn't it? Bouncing from department to department. And I want to tell you that before we can really master TOC, we need to master a couple different things, because what happens, why your bottleneck is moving around so much, is usually because of poor scheduling habits and poor repair planning, which causes all those unexpected delays while the car is in production. So once you can identify your constraint, step number 2 is that we need to exploit the constraint. Once you have identified it, are you using this resource as effectively as possible? So let me give you a couple of examples. Is your blueprinter, right? If your bottleneck is in blueprinting, is your blueprinter out running around cars? You know, is he taking them to the sublet shop when he should be repair planning? The painter, does the booth sit empty until 10 a.m.? What hours, including the lunch hour, is the paint booth in operation, right? Are the batch sizes in your paint booth too large? Does the painter tint colors in the booth? Those are just some examples, okay? That's exploit the constraint. The third one is subordinate to the constraint. So this is really important, guys. What subordinate means is basically that all of the other departments are subservient to that constraint resource. Everybody knows how important it is to ensure it has everything it needs to continuously operate uninterrupted, okay? Everybody is aware, and there's always a vehicle ready to go to that primary constraint. Proper damage analysis, for example, no hiccups, right? If making sure that everybody knows the buffer is never empty. If the primary constraint is the paint shop, where I like it to be actually, that the prep work is always done correctly and that we've got all the correct parts. Okay, number 4, elevate the constraint. So how do we elevate the constraint? Well, we make it bigger, don't we? If you've got the demand, don't we need to maybe make the constraint a little bit bigger? You might have to add a technician. You might have to purchase a drying system, for example, for your booth, you know, taking it from 5 cars a day to 10 cars a day or whatever. This is an area that some people like to deploy lean thinking. Like you can 5S your primary constraint to elevate it a little bit. All right, and then finally, step number 5 is repeat. Go back and repeat steps 1 through 4. So like in lean thinking, it's a continuous improvement thing. Once you elevate a constraint, it's possible, and I hate it when this happens, but it's possible that it's going to move to another resource or department. So sometimes you've got to start over here. So the smart thing to do, and I learned this from the Gold Rat Institute personally, the smart thing to do is to choose which resource in your business makes the most sense to make your primary constraint so that you can manage to it. You might say, well, why do I need a constraint at all? And the fact is, there always will be one. It's unavoidable. It It could even be the market itself. If you build this monster of a machine and not delivering enough work to feed it, then the market can become your constraint. So guys, if you really want to know how to optimize your profitability and massively improve your cycle time, you really need to learn more about the theory of constraints. Go out and buy the book, The Goal, or check out our Operations Monthly Live program. We have hours and hours of world-class training that's available to you the moment that you become a member of OML, as we call it. I almost said TOC. One of our recorded classes is called Busting Bottlenecks, where I go into a lot more detail on the subject of the theory of constraints. So to learn more, just visit the Elite Body Shop Academy. Go to elitebodyshopsolutions.com/academy. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you got a ton of value out of this short lesson. I'm Dave Luehr, and I will see you guys next week. Now go out there and bust some bottlenecks, my friends.